It's strange how life can seem so perfect, so unwaveringly steady, that you don't notice the cracks forming beneath the surface. My wife and I had been married for over a decade. To the outside world, and for the most part, even to me, our marriage was the kind that others envied. We had a comfortable home, shared laughter over mundane things, and celebrated anniversaries with the kind of romantic flair one would expect from a loving couple. Yet, as I look back now, I realize that some routines, some preferences, weren't as innocent as they appeared. Take her love for this particular hotel, for instance. From the earliest years of our marriage, she had a peculiar fondness for dining there. The menu was exceptional, sure, and the ambiance was undeniably charming, but her insistence on frequenting it bordered on obsessive. Lunches, dinners, anniversaries, and even casual meetups, it was always the same place. I would sometimes tease her about her unshakable loyalty to the establishment, calling her the hotel's unofficial ambassador. She'd laugh it off, brushing my words aside with a playful smile. Looking back, her smile feels more like a mask she wore to deflect suspicion. Over the years, her behavior began to shift in ways that, at the time, I couldn't quite place. She started taking more outings without me, claiming she needed time for herself or that she was running errands. Her phone, once a shared tool in our lives, became an extension of her privacy. Conversations were hurriedly ended if I entered the room, and she'd hold her phone close, her grip tighter than necessary. I didn't question it much. I trusted her implicitly. We were in love, or at least, I believed we were. But trust can be a fragile thing. Eroded slowly, almost imperceptibly. Her attachment to the hotel seemed to grow over the years, too. She'd find reasons for us to go there, even if it was just for a cup of coffee or to check out a new menu item. I chalked it up to her quirky tastes and indulged her whims, never thinking there was something deeper or darker behind it all. Then came the day that changed everything. My business partners and I had organized a professional gathering at the very hotel she adored. I remember feeling amused by the coincidence, a passing thought about how excited she'd be if she knew I was there. The event itself was uneventful. Polished speeches, handshakes, and pleasantries. It wasn't until I stepped out into the corridor for some fresh air that my world started unraveling. There she was, my wife, walking briskly down the hallway, her head tilted as though in deep conversation with herself. For a moment, I thought I must be mistaken. Why would she be here? On impulse, I followed her, keeping a safe distance. My pulse quickened with each step. Something felt off, though I couldn't yet define what. She stopped in front of a suite and, with a quick glance over her shoulder, disappeared inside. I froze. Every logical part of me wanted to turn around, to convince myself it was some harmless coincidence. But curiosity, and perhaps a gnawing fear, propelled me forward. The door wasn't fully closed, and as I peered through the crack, my worst fears were confirmed. There she was, entangled with the hotel manager, in a situation that left no room for ambiguity. My heart sank. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me, and I was free-falling into a pit of disbelief and despair. I didn't confront her then. I couldn't. Instead, I walked away, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. That night, as she sat across from me at the dinner table, smiling as though nothing had happened, I felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal. How long had this been going on? How many lies had she told, right to my face? When I finally confronted her days later, the confrontation was as explosive as one might imagine. At first, she denied everything, her voice rising in anger at my accusations. But as I laid out what I had seen, her defenses crumbled. She admitted to the affair, claiming it had started years ago, fueled by loneliness and a need for excitement. Her words cut me deeply, each excuse another twist of the knife. In the aftermath, I did something that surprises me even now. I forgave her, or at least, I tried to. We sought counseling, worked on rebuilding trust, and tried to piece together the fragments of our marriage. For a while, it seemed to work, but forgiveness, as I learned, is a delicate thing. It requires honesty, effort, and most importantly, change. Months later, her behavior began to mirror the patterns of the past. Secretive phone calls, vague explanations for her absences, and an inexplicable return to her attachment to that hotel. This time, I didn't ignore my instincts. I hired a private investigator, a step I never thought I'd take. The results were damning. The affair hadn't ended. It had simply gone underground. Armed with this new evidence, I confronted her once more. This time, there was no room for denial, no explanations that could justify her actions. The argument that followed was raw, emotional, and final. She admitted she never truly ended the affair, claiming she felt trapped in our marriage. That was the breaking point for me. Leaving her wasn't easy. It meant unraveling over a decade of shared memories, facing the judgment of others, and starting over when I least expected to. But as painful as it was, it also brought a sense of clarity. I learned to value myself, to recognize the red flags I had ignored for too long, and to understand that forgiveness is only meaningful when met with genuine repentance. Now, as I look back on that chapter of my life, I feel a sense of peace. The pain has faded, replaced by the lessons it had taught me. I've rebuilt my life, surrounded myself with people who value honesty and loyalty, and found a renewed sense of purpose. Betrayal may have shattered my world, but it also gave me the strength to create a new one.